The wedding venue still charged me for the full day, even though the bride never showed. $23,000 for an empty altar, wilted flowers, and 200 guests who got the story of a lifetime. I paid it without complaint. After all, Sarah had given me something far more valuable than a wedding. She'd shown me exactly who she was before I legally bound myself to her. Standing there in my tuxedo, watching her maid of honor's face drain of color as she read Sarah's text message aloud, I felt something unexpected. Not devastation, not heartbreak, relief, pure crystalline relief. Because in that moment, as gasps rippled through the crowd and my mother began to cry, I realized I'd been freed from the biggest mistake of my life. 3 years later, watching my daughter Emma blow out her birthday candles, I'd never been more grateful for that humiliation. Sarah Mitchell had been my high school sweetheart, the girl everyone said I was lucky to have. Beautiful, charismatic, the kind of woman who lit up every room she entered. We'd dated for 6 years, got engaged at 24, and planned a wedding that cost more than my first car. Her parents owned a chain of upscale restaurants. My family ran a modest construction business. The difference never bothered me, or so I thought. The morning of our wedding, I'd stood in the church vestibule, adjusting my bow tie for the 100th time, when Sarah's best friend Melissa approached with her phone extended. "James, you need to see this." Sarah's message was brief. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. I thought I loved you enough, but I don't. Marcus and I are at the airport. Please don't try to find me." Marcus, her ex-boyfriend from college, the investment banker she'd dated before me, the one she swore meant nothing anymore. I read the message twice while 200 people waited in the pews. My parents had flown in my grandmother from Ireland. Sarah's father had rented the country club for the reception. The band was already setting up, and I felt nothing but a strange, calm clarity. "Tell everyone," I said to Melissa, my voice steady. "Tell them exactly what she said, word for word." Melissa's eyes widened. "James, maybe we should—" "Word for word," I repeated. "They deserve to know who she really is." While Melissa made the announcement, I was already calculating. The joint account we'd opened for wedding expenses, the apartment lease in both our names, the car I'd co-signed for her last year. She thought she could just disappear? She had no idea how thoroughly I'd protected myself when I'd started noticing her late-night texts with M 3 months ago. That's when I'd quietly seen a lawyer. That's when I'd documented everything. That's when I'd realized I might need an exit strategy of my own. The evidence had started piling up months before the wedding. Sarah's behavior had shifted subtly. Longer hours at her marketing job, new lingerie she never wore around me, secretive phone calls she took in another room. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I checked our phone records. Marcus's number appeared 63 times in 1 month alone. I hired a private investigator, just to be sure. The photos came back within 2 weeks. Sarah and Marcus having dinner at an expensive restaurant in the city, his hand on her thigh. Sarah and Marcus entering his apartment building at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. She'd told me she was visiting her sick grandmother. Sarah and Marcus laughing together at a bar, her head thrown back in that way she used to laugh with me. The investigator's report was thorough. They'd rekindled their relationship 4 months before our wedding. Marcus had apparently ended his engagement to some woman in Manhattan and decided he wanted Sarah back. And Sarah, despite all her promises to me, despite wearing my ring and planning our future, had gone running back to her first choice. I didn't confront her. That was the key. Instead, I went to see David Chen, the best family lawyer in the state. "I'm not married yet," I told him, spreading the investigator's photos across his desk. "But I need to protect myself." David leaned back in his chair, studying the evidence. "Smart man. Most people wait until after they're legally bound." We spent 3 hours going through everything. The joint account, I'd stopped contributing to it 6 weeks before the wedding, citing cash flow issues with my business. Sarah hadn't noticed because her father was funding most of the wedding anyway. The apartment lease, I'd quietly spoken to our landlord about breaking it, getting his assurance in writing that I could walk away with my security deposit if needed. The car loan, I had documentation showing Sarah had promised to refinance it in her name after the wedding. David helped me draft letters to everyone involved, dated and notarized, outlining my position. Then I did something Sarah would never expect. I secured a promotion at work, accepting a position that would require me to relocate to our city's branch office in Portland. The pay was substantially better, and it gave me a perfect reason to leave everything behind if needed. I told Sarah it was just an offer I was considering. She'd shrugged, distracted, barely listening. During those months of Sarah's betrayal, I met someone else. Not romantically, at least not at first. Lisa worked at the Portland branch office I'd been offered a position at. She was brilliant, funny, and refreshingly direct. No games, no manipulation. During my interview trip, we'd grabbed coffee and talked for 3 hours about everything from architecture to philosophy. She knew I was engaged. I knew she was recently divorced. Neither of us was looking for anything. But the contrast was stark. Lisa listened when I talked. She remembered details about my family. She asked thoughtful questions about my construction business ideas. She treated me like an equal, not a project to improve. When I flew back home to Sarah, who barely looked up from her phone when I told her about the Portland opportunity, I realized what I'd been missing. Respect. Basic human respect. In those final weeks before the wedding, I watched Sarah carefully. She'd become sloppy, confident I was too devoted to ever question her. She'd leave her phone face up on the counter while she showered. Marcus's name would flash across the screen. "Can't wait to see you." Counting the days. "He'll never make you happy like I can." She'd smile at these messages, type quick responses, then turn to me with that practiced affection. "Just my mom," she'd say, sliding the phone into her pocket. I'd nod. "Nora, you're down," pour her wine, and make notes in my phone after she fell asleep. Every lie. Every time she claimed to be somewhere she wasn't. Every expense she charged to our joint account for lingerie I never saw. Every dismissive comment about my family or my career. I built a timeline, cross-referenced with the investigators' reports and our phone records. By the morning of our wedding, I had a complete picture of exactly who Sarah Mitchell was. Sarah's disrespect had become normalized, so gradually I almost didn't notice. She'd interrupt me mid-sentence at dinner parties to correct something I'd said. She'd make jokes about my blue-collar roots in front of her wealthy friends, then claim she was teasing when I objected. When I'd protest, she'd sigh dramatically. "You're so sensitive, James. Why do you always make things difficult?" The financial exploitation ramped up as the wedding approached. Sarah charged everything to our joint account. Wedding expenses, sure, but also designer shoes, expensive dinners with friends, a weekend spa trip for her bridesmaids that cost $3,000. When I'd check the balance, it had dwindled from the $20,000 we'd started with to less than $5,000. "It's for us," she'd say. But her purchases rarely included me. 8 weeks before the wedding, we were at her parents' anniversary party when Sarah's phone rang. She stepped away to take the call. I knew it was Marcus. 20 minutes later, she returned, flushed and happy, and didn't apologize. When I asked who'd called, she rolled her eyes. "Work emergency. You wouldn't understand." Her father overheard. "That's my girl," he said, clapping her shoulder. "Always hustling. James, you could learn something about ambition from Sarah." The guests laughed. Sarah joined in, and I stood there, drink in hand, feeling my face burn. 6 weeks before the wedding, I came home early from a job site. Our apartment door was unlocked. I heard laughter from the bedroom, Sarah's distinctive giggle and a man's deeper voice. Marcus was sitting on our bed, my side of the bed, holding up fabric samples for the wedding. "This one," he was saying, "brings out your eyes better." Sarah was beaming at him, radiant in a way I hadn't seen her look at me in months. They both jumped when I walked in. "James!" Sarah's face flashed guilt before smoothing into annoyance. "Marcus is helping me with some last-minute wedding decisions," she said. Tea, as if this was perfectly normal. Marcus extended his hand. "Great to finally meet you, man." The investigator's photos flashed through my mind. This man had been sleeping with my fiancée for months. And here he was, in my apartment, on my bed, helping plan my wedding. "I'll bet she does," I said, not taking his hand. Actually, I have dinner plans with Marcus, Sarah said, checking her phone. She kissed my cheek like I was a roommate, grabbed her purse, and left with him. That night, I called David Chen and told him to prepare all the documents. The morning of our wedding, Sarah called me at 7 a.m. "Hey," she said, her voice light, casual. "Tell everyone the wedding's starting an hour late. I'm running behind." Red flag. Sarah was never behind on anything important. "Oh, and James, after we're married, I want you to sign a post-nuptial agreement. My dad's lawyer drafted something. Just standard stuff, protecting family assets." "Sarah, we're getting married in 4 hours." "Exactly. So tell everyone to wait, and we'll discuss the paperwork at the reception. I love you." She hung up before I could respond. I stood there in my tuxedo, phone in hand, and knew. This was it. This was her final overreach, her final assumption that I'd just accept whatever she demanded. And in that moment, I realized I didn't care anymore if she showed up or not. She didn't show up, of course. Melissa delivered her text message at 11:30 a.m., 90 minutes after our ceremony was supposed to start. I watched the horror spread through the crowd as Melissa read Sarah's words aloud, her voice shaking. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. I thought I loved you enough. But I don't. Marcus and I are at the airport. Please don't try to find me." My mother gasped. Sarah's mother screamed. Her father's face turned purple with rage, and I felt nothing but cold, crystalline satisfaction. "Everyone," I said, my voice carrying through the shocked silence. "Thank you for coming. Before you leave, there's something you should know." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder I'd carefully organized, and connected it to the church's projection system that was supposed to display our wedding photos. Instead, the first image that appeared was a screenshot of Marcus's text to Sarah. "Can't wait until you're free of him. 3 more weeks." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I clicked to the next image. Sarah's response. "I know, I just have to get through the wedding. Then we can finally be together." Click. Private investigator photo of Sarah and Marcus kissing outside his apartment. Click. Another photo of them having dinner, her hand in his. Click. Bank statement showing Sarah's charges to our joint account for lingerie I'd never seen, spa days I'd never heard about, dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Click. Text from Sarah to her friend. "James is so desperate to marry me, it's actually pathetic. But Marcus isn't ready to commit yet, so I might as well have security until he is." The church had gone completely silent. Sarah's mother was crying. Her father was staring at the screen, his face ashen. "This has been going on for 4 months, I said calmly. "Sarah has been planning to leave me since before we sent the invitations you all received. She was using me as a backup plan while she pursued her actual first choice. So when you wonder who humiliated whom today, remember these images." I clicked to the final slide. A screenshot of the lease break notice for our apartment, the letter refinancing the car out of my name, and my acceptance letter for the Portland job, all dated weeks before. I've known for months. I've been preparing for this. And honestly, she did me the biggest favor of my life by not showing up today, because I would have been legally tied to someone who views marriage as a transaction and love as a consolation prize. Sarah's father tried to speak. "James, Save it," I said. "I'm going to Portland. The reception is canceled, but the food is paid for. Please, enjoy the meal on Sarah's family's dime. I'm sure they can afford it. Consider it compensation for wasting your time today." I walked down that aisle for the second time. Past crying relatives and slack-jawed friends, out into the bright June sunshine. My best man caught up with me in the parking lot. "Holy shit, man, that was necessary," I said, loosening my bow tie. "That was necessary." My phone started ringing immediately. Sarah. I declined the call. She called again, declined. A text appeared. "We need to talk. This is not what it looks like." I blocked her number and drove away from that church, from that life, from that humiliation, feeling lighter than I had in months. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By the time I reached my parents' house, The wedding photos I'd displayed were circulating online. Someone had recorded my speech and posted it to social media. Within hours, it had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of comments, all sympathizing with me and condemning Sarah. Her employer, a boutique marketing firm that prided itself on discretion and integrity, saw the video. She was fired within 48 hours. Marcus's employer, a prestigious investment bank, also took notice. Marcus was placed on administrative leave that became permanent within a week. Sarah called me 17 times that first day. Then 50 times the second day. Text messages flooded in. "Please, James, let me explain. You set me up. How could you do this to me? Everyone hates me now. My career is ruined. I blocked every number, changed my phone entirely. The wedding gifts that had been delivered early, I returned every single one with a note. Sarah Mitchell and James Reynolds will not be marrying. Sarah has chosen to pursue other options. Please accept our apologies for any inconvenience." The note was professional, emotionless, and devastating. The financial destruction cascaded beautifully. Sarah had been living beyond her means, sustained by our joint account and her parents' safety net. When I drained the remaining funds from our joint account, legally, since both names were on it, and closed it, she was left with roughly $300. Her credit cards were maxed out. Without her job, she couldn't make the minimum payments. Within 2 months, Sarah had moved back in with her parents. The girl who'd mocked my small-town life was living in her childhood bedroom at 27. The woman who'd criticized my career was unemployed and unhireable. Her name permanently attached to a viral humiliation video. Marcus fared even worse. His finance career was effectively over. Last I heard, he was bartending at a casino in Atlantic City, a far cry from his corner office in Manhattan. Sarah's relationship with Marcus collapsed within 3 months. Turned out, when you build a romance on betrayal and secrecy, it doesn't hold up well under public scrutiny and financial stress. They blamed each other for the disaster. Sarah's friends abandoned her gradually, then all at once. Her maid of honor, Melissa, posted a public apology to me on Facebook. I should have said something sooner. I knew James deserved better. Sarah's family fractured over the scandal. Their restaurant empire took a hit as people associated the family name with the viral video. They eventually had to sell 2 of their 5 locations. Her younger brother stopped speaking to her. Her grandmother removed her from her will. Every connection Sarah had dissolved. She'd burned it all down for Marcus. And Marcus had given her nothing but company in her downfall. While Sarah deteriorated in her parents' house, I thrived in Portland. The job was challenging, rewarding, everything I'd hoped. Within 6 months, I'd been promoted to senior estimator. Within a year, I was managing the entire department. Lisa and I had started that business we'd discussed, renovating historic buildings on weekends. We'd buy old houses, restore them carefully, resell them to families who appreciated craftsmanship. It was profitable, fulfilling, and fun. Lisa was everything Sarah wasn't. Direct, honest, supportive. She celebrated my successes without comparing them to someone else's. We became close friends before we became anything more. When we finally started dating, about 7 months after I'd moved to Portland, it was like breathing clean air after years in a smoke-filled room. No games, no manipulation. Just 2 people who genuinely enjoyed each other, respected each other, built each other up instead of tearing each other down. Sarah's final desperate attempt came about 14 months after the wedding. She somehow got my new number and called while I was having dinner with Lisa and some friends. James, please don't hang up. It's Sarah." I almost did hang up, but curiosity won. "What do you want, Sarah? I need to talk to you. In person, please. I'm coming to Portland next week for a job interview. Can we meet, just for coffee? 30 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "No. Please, I need closure. I need to understand why I what? Exposed you for cheating on me? Showed everyone who you really were? Protected myself from a woman who viewed me as a backup plan?" "That's not fair," she said, her voice breaking. "I made mistakes, but you destroyed my life. I didn't take anything from you, Sarah. You lost those things yourself through your own actions. I just made sure people knew the truth about what you did." "I loved you," she whispered. "I still love you. We could—" "No, you didn't. You loved having someone you could control while you waited for something better. And now that Marcus didn't work out, now that your life fell apart, you want to come back to the safe option. I'm not interested. James, please. I'm with someone else. Someone who actually loves me, who respects me, who doesn't view me as a consolation prize. I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy for the first time in years. And you being out of my life is a big part of that happiness." "You can't mean that." "I absolutely mean it. Don't call this number again. Don't contact me. Don't come to Portland. We're done. Consider this your closure. I don't forgive you. I don't want to see you. I don't think about you. Move on with your life and leave me alone to enjoy mine." I hung up before she could respond. Blocked the number. Lisa squeezed my hand under the table. "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I said. And I meant it. 3 years to the day after Sarah left me at that altar, I was standing in my backyard in Portland, watching my daughter Emma blow out 3 candles on her birthday cake. Emma had Lisa's auburn hair and my green eyes, and she was the most perfect thing I'd ever been part of creating. Lisa stood beside me, her hand in mine, pregnant with our second child. My parents were there, my siblings, Lisa's family, all the friends we'd made in Portland. My construction business with Lisa was thriving. We'd renovated 17 historic properties, employed 12 people, and were profiled in Portland monthly as young entrepreneurs revitalizing the city's architectural heritage. I'd been promoted to VP of operations at my main job. We'd bought a house with a yard, adopted a rescue dog, built a life that felt full and real and completely mine. Emma squealed as we sang Happy Birthday, clapping her little hands and grinning at the attention. This was my family. These people, this moment, this life, all of it existed because Sarah had walked away. I hadn't thought about Sarah in months until my mother mentioned that she'd heard something. Sarah was working as an administrative assistant at a small insurance office in our hometown. Still living with her parents, still single. Her social media showed a much different woman than the one I'd known. Dated selfies with bland captions, generic inspirational quotes, photos of her parents' dog. Nothing about career achievements or social life or romantic interests. Just existence. The fire, the charisma, the confidence, all of it gone, replaced by someone going through the motions. Marcus had moved to Florida and married someone else. She'd found out through Facebook like everyone else. Sarah had apparently tried dating, but her reputation preceded her. The video had been viewed over 2 million times. Anyone who Googled her name found it immediately. She was permanently marked by her worst moment, unable to escape it, unable to rebuild. 3 years ago, I'd been standing in a church, humiliated, watching my life plans collapse. I'd thought I was in love. I'd thought Sarah was my future. I'd thought losing her would destroy me, but the truth was simpler and more beautiful. Losing Sarah had saved me. That betrayal, that humiliation, that viral video, all of it had pushed me toward the life I actually wanted. Toward Portland. Toward my business with Lisa. Toward real love, equal partnership, mutual respect. Toward Emma and the baby coming in April. Toward happiness I didn't have to negotiate for or earn through compliance. If I could go back and prevent Sarah's betrayal, would I? No, not even for a second. Sarah had given me a gift by leaving. She'd freed me from a marriage that would have slowly crushed me. Thrown from years of being taken for granted and controlled and viewed as insufficient. She'd shown me exactly who she was before I legally bound myself to her, and in doing so, she'd cleared the path for me to find someone who actually deserved me. Thanksgiving dinner was chaos in the best way. Emma was trying to help my mother set the table, which mostly involved moving napkins around randomly and announcing, "I'm helpin'." Lisa was laughing with my sister about pregnancy cravings. My father and I were arguing good-naturedly about the best way to brine a turkey. The house was full of noise and warmth and family. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Daddy, when is baby gonna come?" "A few more months, sweetie." "And baby will play with me?" "When baby's big enough, yes." "Good, I share my toys." "Who?" "Mommy says sharing is nice." She ran off to show my mother a drawing she'd made, leaving me standing in the doorway between the kitchen and dining room, taking in the scene. This was my life now. Messy, loud, imperfectly perfect. Built on honesty and respect and real love. The kind that doesn't keep score, doesn't use manipulation, doesn't view people as backup plans. Lisa caught my eye across the room and smiled, her hand resting on her pregnant belly. I smiled back. Sarah had left me at an altar 3 years ago, thinking she was choosing better. Instead, she'd chosen nothing, and I'd chosen everything. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't destruction. It was building a life so good that her absence from it was its own reward. I'd never looked back, and I never would.